Well, hello, avid readers of Christian fiction. I'm here with Victoria McCombs, and we have a special guest today who just woke up from his nap. Victoria is the author of Oathbound, which I just finished today, and it's fantastic. I can't wait for you to hear all about it. And Victoria, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Victoria McCombs. I self-publish some books, and then I also traditionally publish some books. I'm a mom of 3 little boys, and I live with my husband in Omaha, Nebraska.
I love that. And we have a little guest on here, but I have 10 kids, so it's the mom writer thing. There's
Yes.
kids all the time, there's books all the time. I was looking, it was so fun. There was one of my author friends posted about her house was clean and she was getting ready to diffuse oils and sit down and write. And I'm like looking at that going, I've never had a moment like that. I started writing when I had 3 little kids at home, like probably your kids' ages. And so, it's just something we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's chaos, but it works.
Well, I loved Oathbound. Okay, so it's a pirate story.
Yes.
Emmy and Ames are the main characters, and this is like, I was trying to think of how to describe it. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean-esque. There's the dark magic and sea creatures and all the things, but I cared a lot more about the characters in this book than Pirates of the Caribbean. But tell us how you got the idea for the book.
I had finished reading something and was just trying to think of what do I want next? And I thought, I have never read a really good pirate book. And so I'm like, I should write one. And so I started coming up with the ideas. And then, of course, I saw pirate books everywhere. And so I was like, well, maybe it's not as original as I thought. But I was so hooked by them. And yeah, I loved the plot. But for this one, more than my others, it was the characters that I just became obsessed with.
Yeah, the characters are so real. They both have, I'm trying to not say too much. They both have secrets that the other doesn't know about, and that plays crucial elements of the story are kind of tied around those secrets. But there's also a cast of characters that are surrounding them, and they're on the high seas. And I just loved everything about it. And I mentioned earlier when we were off the video that I was finishing listening to today when I was taking my youngest son to the orthodontist. So he's 11. So I'm like, hey, you want to listen to my book? I'm listening to it. I'm almost done with it. I got to find out what happens. And so in the car on the way there, we listen and we get back in the car with our orthodontist. He's like, can we listen to more of that book? And so what I love about it, like I mentioned, it's Pirates of the Caribbean-esque, but it's something that you totally read aloud to, junior highers or high schoolers could read it. There's nothing in there that's going to be too dark, too inappropriate for that. Were you really going for that?
Yeah, I am. So yeah, it's tricky because I want it to be something that people like in their 20s can really enjoy. But I'm mentoring a 14-year-old girl right now with writing, and I'm struggling to recommend books that I love that are also really clean. And so that's what I want, is to write books that are fantastic, but are still going to stay clean.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's the adventures there, the conflict is there, there's problems after problems. So it's not like you're swaying away from those things, but it's definitely, it's something. And even their thoughts and their struggles seem very real to life.
Yeah, good.
All right, so I know this just released. Was it last week when it just came out?
It did. Yep.
I love it. So it's so good. And I listened to the audiobook, and the narrators did a fantastic job. And I would just love you to share a little bit, because I know that narrator has also done some of your other books.
She has. Yeah, it was really ironic. She had done my first 2 books when I was with a different publisher, and then I went self-published. And actually, I was going to self-publish Oathbound, so I had like a whole journey with it first. And I reached out to her to see if she would narrate for me. And she said that she was signed on to bigger publishers. And then I got signed to Enclave, and there she was. And so it's fantastic that she's the one who had the whole time.
Yeah, and Enclave is an awesome publisher. I've known Steve Lobby since 1994 when we went to my first writers conference. He was there too, so
nice.
We have a long friendship, but it's a great publisher. And I also noticed when I'm looking at the book that it says it's part of the Royal Rose Chronicles Book 1.
Yes, there will be 3 of them. I have just started writing the 3rd book.
Okay.
I'm very excited about it. I love that there's a big cast, and I really get to explore the other people. So Emmerich, which is Emmy's brother, he gets a lot of chapters. And then Ontario, the first mate, he gets chapters. And so I really get to explore other people as well, which would be really cool.
Yeah, at the end, I'm like, okay, I can't give it away, but I'm like, I could see that there's going to be more point of view characters coming up in the book. So when did those books release?
That'll be January of 2023 that we get Silver Bounty, which is book 2. And then January of 2024, we get Savage Bread, which is book 3.
Oh, we have to wait. Okay. But it's worth it.
It's a wait. I'm going to put them down really fast here. Sure.
No problem at all. And I wanted to show, I don't think we showed the cover yet. So here it is. On my phone, but I think you have a copy there that they could see better. Yes. Yeah. And I love it. The cover is fantastic.
Fun. I have these little character cards too, which are kind of cool with.
Oh my goodness.
Funny. And this is Arn, my 2 pirates.
I love that. That is so cool. That is so fun. Yeah, when I went to Realm Makers this last year, there's a lot of those character cards there. So
yes. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm hiring an actual artist soon to do like fancier art prints with the cast. That'll be really cool.
Yeah, it'll definitely be cool, and it'll be fun to see what they look like. Because I mean, I did picture them like that, but it's cool to see a picture of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, what was challenging when it came to writing about pirates?
It's tricky. I've never read a pirate book. I have now, but at the time I hadn't, and I hadn't actually watched all of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. So my knowledge was very limited. So I had to look up a lot about what's this like, what's like the structure of the ship, what are the different roles and the jobs. So it was really hard to get all the technical, like what are they going to eat? And is it going to be, it was tricky to learn. Is it going to be more historical with like paying fees when you arrive at port and all that stuff? Or is it more like fantasy where that stuff is kind of like pushed to the side? But just sort of like figuring out all the rules and how it's going to work and be realistic. And it was tricky.
Yeah. Well, it was super fun because when I first, and I don't like to read back over copy. I just like want to get in the book.
Fun.
And I knew since it was Enclave that there would probably be more of like a mystical fantasy because it's Enclave.
Yeah.
But right from the beginning, I think it was when they were mentioning like the moving islands. Like islands that are moving. I'm like, okay, this is definitely going to be more of the fantasy genre. And then, they mention different creatures. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I love, like, once you jump into it, it's like you're just along for the ride. And another thing, it reminded me a little bit Peter Pan-ish, too.
Oh,
Like an adult, cool Peter Pan. So a mix of, like, Pirates of the Caribbean with some of the, I don't know, just the interactions and actions seem more kind of like that piratey Peter Pan-ish, and so that was super fun.
Yeah. Good.
All right, so I want to hear more. I know Oathbound is the first book in this 3-book series. And what were the 2 other titles again?
Silver Bounty and then Savage Bread, just B-R-E-D, but I always picture like a savage loaf of bread whenever I say that one.
I love it. That's so good. Okay, and then I know, so that's with Enclave. I would love to hear more about the other books you've written, and this is the first one I've read from you, and so I'm always like, ooh, what else does she have? So I'd love to hear more about those.
Yeah, my debut is The Storyteller's Daughter, and that is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. I loved retellings growing up, and so it was really natural for that to be the first place I start. And from there, I wrote Woods of Silver and Light, which the main character is the sister of the main character in my debut. Okay. So that's kind of fun. They're unique plots, but they're tied together in that way. Mm-hmm. And then set in the same world during the same time, but with a unique plot, is a duology with The Winter Charlatan and then Heir of Roses. And that is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and then like a Princess and the Pea, Snow White retelling. And I'm hesitant to say retellings because they really just draw like one inspiration from the original.
Right.
And then they're completely new, but they're drawn from inspiration that way.
That's so great. So how did you get on those type of stories? Is it something that you've always wanted to write? Did you go up wanting to write those type of books?
Yeah, I read everyone I could find growing up and just loved them. And so, yeah, it was just so natural. And I loved, it was kind of an easier way to start because the plot was already there. So growing up, that's what I would do. And then I just sort of started straying more and more from the plot until I learned how to create my own But it was the perfect place to start, especially in elementary, which is when I started writing. It was a really good starting place.
Yeah. So is that something like, did you just grow up knowing like I'm going to be an author and this is what I want to do and this is
I
my
hope
dream?
so. Yeah, I've always written. I didn't really think people could make a living from it. My dad actually writes, and my grandpa's written a little bit. My sister writes, and so it's normal in our family. But I'm the first one to like go out so far with it and like make it such a huge part
Yeah.
of who I am now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Tell me about a little bit about going from, okay, this is my dream to publication. Because I know a lot of people that love to read and a lot of our readers think, ooh, I wonder
Mhm.
if this is something that I can do too.
Yeah, I had given birth to my oldest child. I was at home in home daycare. I was really young and just thinking like, okay, like, is this what I'm doing with the rest of my life? And then I thought, you know what? I have some time. I could probably pursue this if I wanted. And so I looked up, how do you get published? I saw you send out a query letter to an agent. And so I just like mass sent out query letters to every agent there was. I started with Dear Agent. I'm sure they stopped right there. And then from there, I thought, okay, like, let me look into this a bit more. And so I wrote another book. I got involved in the writing community on Instagram, which is the hugest help for sure. And then from there, I tried again. And then I started getting a few offers. And then I ended up turning them down and tried again, wrote Storyteller's Daughter. And then that one happened.
Yeah, I love that because I think so many times people think like the very first book you write, you just send it out there and all these
Yeah.
publishers want it. And I don't think, I mean, I've known very few people that have had that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was not that way at all for me.
Yeah. Well, that's so great that you could do it while you're balancing being at home, taking care of your
Mm-hmm.
kids, which is my journey too. I started when my oldest was 5, and then I had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and it was just
Okay.
me sending stuff out. And my first book didn't get published for like 5 years, but I think so much in the process of learning to write, and I went to writers conferences and met
Mm-hmm.
people and connected with people like Steve Lobby at Enclave.
Yeah.
And it's such a journey of, well, first of all, individual journey, but then also the
Mm-hmm.
journey of understanding like who we are as a writer and understanding like the type of books that we have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I would love to hear too. So you have this 3-book series, and you said are you finishing book 3 now, or where are you in the process of that?
I just started. I really like to
Okay.
have a super intense outline before I start. And so
Hmm.
I'm still sort of crafting that. I have written the first page. I tend not to write until I have the outline done, but I can. But yeah, I'm just starting. I tend to write a book every 3 to 4 months once I have that outline done. I'm hoping it'll be done during the summertime.
Good. Yeah, that's what I think. There's people that write more. They need the plot. They need to know where to go. And then
Mm-hmm.
I definitely need to know where I'm going and the main
Yeah.
points and the chapters. And then there's some that sit down and say, I just sit down and see where it takes me, which I'm like,
Yeah.
that would be very hard for me. I like to have more control over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done that before. It did not take me very good places. And so now I need my outline, especially that middle part where it's like, okay,
Mhm.
it's cutting slow and I don't know what's happening. So yeah, I need my outline for sure.
Yeah. So do you have plans for after this series? Do you have ideas for more books? Are they already contracted, or where are you in that process?
Yes, I can't, maybe I can, I don't know. I don't know how much I can talk about it, but actually Enclave already has the first book in a
Oh,
duology. So I haven't like signed anything yet, but that is happening after this whole trilogy is out.
oh, very
And something
cool.
else special is coming. So I'm
Oh,
really,
good.
really excited about that one.
Yeah. So is it in the same genre? Like, let's see how much we get.
Yes. Yeah, it's young adult fantasy, but it's more set in like the Fae realm.
Okay.
So yeah, so not pirates, but still exciting creatures to work with.
Yeah, that's so fun. Are some of the creatures going to be like not people, or
No, yeah, they are, but like they're Fae, so
yeah?
like entirely normal. What's up?
Play something.
Okay, really fast.
I was in Dad's room, I felt never, and it was already on.
Oh, all right, you go back and play.
Is that weird?
That is weird.
I'm so like, this is my life.
Yeah.
This is my life, and
Yep.
I understand that as a writer mom trying to balance it all. So the book just came out, and it's fun to start getting those first reviews that come in or first comments. What are you hearing, or what are people saying about the book so far?
Yes, it's been really fantastic. This is definitely my best received book that I've ever put out. I was a little nervous. I have never written anything with slightly darker horror vibes in it before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried with this book, and it's been well received, which is good. I was very nervous. And then the characters, people really like the characters that I created in that world, which I'm so glad because I put a lot of attention into creating them.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, there are some darker elements, but they're not like dark.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not like super horror vibes.
Yeah. I mean, there's some of the nightmares, or I don't know. Mm-hmm. I can't tell too many details. It's so hard to talk about the book, but not talk about all the elements because I want to be like, and then there's this, and then there's that.
Yeah, it's fun. I've always done like fairy tales, which are like light and happy, and so then this one was just very different for me. But I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, that's so fun that you're getting the feedback that, and I think that's definitely when I walked away with it too. I mean, there's all the action and all the plot, but the characters really are just people you care about. So I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I would love to hear some of the books that you love to read, because I know so many of us are writers. We love reading. So what are some like Christian fiction books that you've loved?
Yeah, there are two series that I really liked. So one of them, the Carter House Girls, and it's different. It's not like adult fantasy. It's more like contemporary. There's just about these group of girls that lived in this house together growing up and just like finding Jesus and like finding who they are and their identities and all the high school stuff, going through all of that together. That was really cool. And then along the same lines, there's one called Becoming Becca, and it's a five book series, and it was the same thing. It's just like a girl's walk through high school and how Jesus can work into all of that. And I love them. I think those are both pretty solid series.
Uh-huh. That's awesome. It sounds like something my teen girls would definitely like.
Yeah, they were really good.
Now, hi. Are you not feeling well today? He was like, I don't know why my mommy's doing this. Get away. Hi. So I would love to hear how your faith plays into your writing too.
Yeah. It's tricky. I've always wondered, like, should I be writing like devotionals and stuff? Like, is that why I have this gift? But that's not where my passion lies. And so I thought, okay, well, how can I work my faith into these stories where the faith is not so obvious? And so I think putting my morals in there is really important to me. And so keeping it clean so that I can recommend it to a middle schooler and not feel weird about it that's sort of like my conscious guide. Whenever I'm like, hey, like, what should I add? I'm like, well, would I recommend this to a middle schooler? And I know it's good or it's not good to add. But yeah, just keeping the morals there. So punishments for sin and not letting this out in their favor. And yeah.
I want somebody's phone to look up how my lava blocks.
I love you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just making sure that even though Jesus is not spoken of, that people can come away feeling like there were morals there was good and there was wrong, and I'm not leading them astray from righteousness that way.
Yeah, and I think the worldview of an author will always come through. I think some have it more clearly in their books, but also, like you were saying, like definite morals and the whole oath-bound part of it. It's like, who are you going to tie yourself to? And I thought, this would be a really good book for some of my teenagers to read, and then talk about that. Like, what are we binding ourselves to when we, I mean, it's very clear in your book, the oath-bound part. They know what they're doing. But I think in everyday life, we are choosing who we're binding ourselves to, and that really makes a key point in your book that I think would be great conversation starters if you have a young person to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I had that idea for oath binding maybe like a year before I actually came up with the rest of that plot. So I'm glad that it fit in there. Yeah.
And is that going to be something a plot element that carries in the next two books?
For sure. Yeah. I think it's such a huge, unique part about the world. And so I didn't want to lose that.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, I want to explain all of it, but I can't. It's such a cool part. Basically, go get the book, read it in 2 days like I did, or listen to it. I listened to it in 2 days, and you're going to love it. Well, I just appreciate, Victoria, you being here today, and your adorable little boys being here and sharing you with us. And I hope everyone's feeling better there soon.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. It's been rough, but a little bit better. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was fantastic to come on and talk about the book, and I love sharing about it, so it was always lots of fun.
Yeah, and where can people go find more information about you and all of your books?
Amazon is a great place to find the book, and then I am very active on Instagram at Victoria McCombs, so if you want to connect with me, you can find me there, and I'll respond to all the messages.
Very cool. I love the book so much. Again, can you hold it up one more time so they can see it?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's Oathbound, and it just came out this last week. You're going to love it if you get it's hardback. They get the hardback version.
Yes.
There's paperback. There's the audio version, which I listened to, and the narrator did a fantastic job. So
yeah, paperback actually comes out, I think, in August.
Okay.
So if you're finding it right now, it's somebody else selling it for like $40. So.
Oh, no.
It's a cheaper version, though. It's coming in August.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Victoria.
Thank you.
Bye.